Welcome to our series of learning modules that focuses on the value of research in patient care. Our objective is to educate clinical staff on the scientific method and how to apply it to everyday clinical practice. Here in Module 5, we will explore important steps for preparing and conducting your study. In this module, we will discuss the value of building transdisciplinary collaborations, look at a range of options for funding a study, touch on various ethical considerations, and cover the fundamentals of study oversight. Healthcare is becoming more specialized, with new regulations and oversights, and the team required to undertake clinical studies continues to grow. As a result, clinicians may need specialized research, technical or administrative assistance, that is, a transdisciplinary team. Such a team is formed by people with different backgrounds coming together at the start to design and conduct a given study. Importantly, each team member provides a unique perspective on the project, leading to knowledge and understanding that transcends any single discipline. Another benefit of this shared ownership is that clinicians may find it even easier to implement their findings. When deciding who should form your transdisciplinary team, you should assess whom your study would affect if you were to implement your findings into clinical care. Typical team members may be statisticians, informatics specialists, nurses, physicians, and clinical support services. Depending on the project and your level of scientific experience, a research scientist could also help guide your efforts. When it comes to clinical studies, funding is an important consideration and largely depends on whether projects are investigator-initiated or industry-sponsored. For instance, if you are initiating clinical research, then there are many options for financial support. An initial approach is to look into small seed grants or other internal grants within your department or organization. These are often developed to encourage investigators to pursue research and proof-of-concept pilots. Funding may also be available for quality improvement studies, in cases where you do not intend to generalize your findings. When internal funds are not available, many opportunities exist outside of your institution. In the United States, the National Institutes of Health is the primary medical funding organization, but other public, nonprofit, and private organizations also provide avenues for funding. A useful approach is to search out national bodies and philanthropy groups related to your area of interest. Industry-sponsored funding is also common, whereby an organization contracts with the researcher to undertake a specific clinical trial, for example, drug trials sponsored by pharmaceutical companies. Regardless of funding, healthcare institutions and their employees are bound by many regulations that may complicate the ability to pursue and receive funding. Before you consider funding your project, be sure to contact your organization's research officer, compliance department, or contracting team. Now that we've examined how to build collaborations and seek funding, we'll turn our attention to ethics. Unethical research practices in the past have led to the need for formal ethical review and approval for any research that involves human subjects. In the United States, the Code of Federal Regulations defines a human subject as being a living individual about whom an investigator, whether professional or student, conducting research, obtains data through intervention or interaction with the individual or identifiable private information. In developing your study, remember to contact your local Institutional Review Board, or IRB, to determine what type of application you need to submit to obtain ethics review and approval. Federal regulations require institutions to maintain a human subjects protections program that includes an institutional review board. Prior to conducting research, seek out the Human Protections Program in your organization. Depending on your project goals, the IRB may rule that your project does not meet the federal definition for human subject research. In these situations, be sure to contact your institution's research officer or compliance department for guidance. With regard to oversight, different levels may exist depending on the type of study. For all human subject research studies, the principal investigator, or PI, is ultimately responsible for ensuring the study is conducted as outlined in the study's protocol and approved by the IRB. If it is a low-risk protocol, then the PI is also responsible for monitoring the safety of subjects involved in the study. For studies other than low risk, a formal committee may be used to assess the safety of the proposed intervention and the well-being of subjects. This is known as a Data Safety Monitoring Board and consists of a panel of experts who are independent and external to the study team. Their role is to provide an unbiased assessment of the safety of the proposed intervention and, if necessary, provide guidance on the continuation or stoppage of the study. For sponsored research, another type of monitor that may be present is the site monitor. Often for industry-funded trials, a site monitor will be used to ensure that the site PI is complying with the sponsor's protocol and all regulatory guidelines. For drug and device studies in the United States, the Federal Drug Administration, or FDA, has regulatory authority over the project. Oversight is specific to the study, but may require the development of routine reports and on-site visits by FDA personnel. It is important to ensure your study is being conducted with the utmost diligence to avoid any potential issues with non-compliance. In addition to these, your institution's Office of Human Subjects Protections Program may review study procedures to ensure that the protocol is being conducted as planned. These random audits are a possibility for all approved research studies, regardless of the level of risk. As a delegated authority, the Office of Human Subjects Protections Program is responsible for ensuring that all research complies with state and federal regulations. Enrolling participants in human subject research can be incredibly difficult. 27% of studies in the United States fail to enroll a single subject, and 75% fail to reach their intended recruitment target. Bear in mind that you may also encounter similar challenges in a quality improvement study. The reasons for this are complex, and it raises important considerations. Do you have access to the intended population? For recruitment purposes, this may require that someone not involved in the study ask if the participant would be willing to discuss the study with a research team member. Things to consider are the time needed for all personnel to screen, identify, approach, and consent a patient. In a busy clinical environment, this can be especially problematic. Another consideration is your study methodology. If your study is overly complicated or the consent is unclear, then participants may not wish to participate as the process seems burdensome. When designing a study, thinking about the patient population, their comprehension level, and their time constraints is important to meet enrollment needs. There are also many ways to reach your target audience, including flyers, social media, posted advertisements, and word of mouth. When designing your research, it is important to align your advertisement strategy with your target population and your design methodology. This should not be underestimated, and a consultation with your research officer or faculty advisor is advisable. Finally, clinical research may impact the clinical environment and therefore patient satisfaction. During study development, be sure to speak with your manager, administrator, or privacy officer to ensure that your recruitment strategies are aligned with institutional guidelines. All recruitment material must be reviewed and approved by the IRB as part of your overall research plan and factors in such things as participants' comprehension levels. Now we'll ask you to reflect on what you've learned. When it comes to scientific collaboration, what types of professionals might be members of a transdisciplinary team? Members of a transdisciplinary team may include statisticians, informatics specialists, nurses, physicians, and clinical support services. Whether you're conducting clinical research or a quality improvement project, what is a good first approach to obtaining funding? A good initial approach is to seek out small seed grants or other internal grants within your department or organization. True or false? In all cases, study oversight involves only the principal investigator. The answer is false. There may be different levels of oversight depending on the type of study. This could involve a data safety monitoring board and a human subjects protections program. This education series is made possible by a generous gift from the Stanford University School of Nursing alumni, in collaboration with Stanford Healthcare, Lucile Packard Children's Hospital, and Stanford Medicine. Congratulations, you have completed Module 5.